We're going to continue to follow this live presser there in San Diego in the neighborhood, military housing neighborhood, where that plane went down around 3 a.m. This morning, California time. 2 people now dead, 8 injured. But here's the deal. As we were listening to the fire chief, more than likely there will be more fatalities. They're still going through the wreckage, apparently trying to identify the bodies that were on that aircraft. Our Trevor Ault on the ground there at the plane crash, site of the plane crash where that presser was taking place. Also, our aviation expert, John Nance, is here to weigh in as well. So, Trevor, it looks like roads are still closed, that they're still, I mean, it's still a live investigation. They're still identifying bodies, which is just heartbreaking. Apparently, it's been hard to identify those in the aircraft that went down.
Definitely, Kieran. You can certainly understand why when you see the massive debris field that was left behind here. What we just learned from this most recent press conference, that this plane apparently clipped the power line on its way down, crashed through what appears to be part of a tree, and then they say slammed right into this home and then onto the street, leading to the explosion of several vehicles right here. And we're hearing not only about the difficulties in identifying the fatalities of the people on board. We heard from officials that they believe it's unlikely that anyone on that plane survived, while miraculously it does seem everyone on this street was able to make it out safely. It was a very harrowing escape from them, including from this first house right here on the corner. The plane crashes into their home, catches on fire. We know that they needed the help of their neighbors in order to escape safely. We've spoken to several of these neighbors. We've seen some of the videos of people who could not escape out the front of their homes. The back had some very high walls. They had to have neighbors bring an 8-foot ladder, drop it over the wall in the back of their home, have them climb over onto their neighbor's trampoline in order to make their way out. These are people with children, people with pets, where they're throwing them over back fences to try to make sure they can get out safely. Of course, the big question, Kira, still is what led to this plane crash? What is the final death total, which could continue to rise here? We do know, as we've heard, there was some pretty dense fog this morning around 3:45 when the plane went down. It's still unconfirmed whether or not that was a contributing factor to the crash here. That investigation is ongoing. We do know that some members of the FAA are on site right now surveying the scene, trying to get some of those answers, Kira.
Got it. Well, John Nance, you might be able to help us out. John, I grew up there in San Diego, very familiar with the Montgomery Gibbs Executive Airport. I know the tower is not necessarily open 24 hours. Check me on that. So if they're coming in at 3 a.m. in the morning, it's an odd time. You've got crummy weather, and then you're having to deal with SoCal approach and then switching to a local frequency. Is it possible then, you know, the pilot, maybe when he didn't have good visibility, or she, I don't know who the pilot was, should have just come back up and gone around till they had a clear approach? I mean, what are your thoughts?
Presumably, they were on an instrument landing approach, an ILS, because there is a good stable one there on the field. If so, then they should have been able to descend the aircraft in a very, planned fashion until they got to about 600 feet, or maybe a little less than that for the decision height. And at that point, if they don't see the runway, they should go around. Now, the fact that we've got the devastation like we do, and the airplane came in the way it did, it was a very flat trajectory. That does not indicate something that suddenly nosed over, but it indicates that it was flown into the ground. We call it controlled flight into terrain. And that indicates that something went wrong with their execution of the ILS signal, if that's indeed what they were doing.
All right. Well, clearly we'll continue to follow the investigation, and also as they continue to work through the scene to identify those bodies, we'll bring you all up to date. Trevor Ault, John Nance, thank you both so much.